money. And that's why the government wanted to make drugs illegal, was to corrupt the police, because then it makes incredible profits and makes them fabulously wealthy. In this process of tyranny, the redcoats were the police, and they were the bad guys. And it's the same thing throughout history. Use a Star Wars analogy, because folks love that. The stormtroopers are the Imperial police. Are they the good guys? No, they're not. It's very, very simple. And we have to get our minds around that if the government isn't following the Bill of Rights and Constitution, the police and military are then engaged in treason. And they know they are. That's why they're trying to bully people and intimidate people and bring this tyranny in. Now, I know the average cop, because I get hundreds of emails from them every month and phone calls, and cops on the street come over and talk to me, and I understand that. But it doesn't matter. We're going the direction we're going. They're not speaking up as much as they should. They're not standing up. If they do, they get persecuted. And we have been fully hijacked by foreign offshore banks. We've had a corporate takeover of the United States. We have a race to the bottom where they play different nations off against each other while the globalists are outside the nation states. And we're going into a new dark age with an overlay of technocracy. So, a lot of these police, as things implode, they're going to have even more pressure to do what they're told to try to keep their job. They'll even be more scared in the economy. And a lot of regular citizens and government bureaucrats are going to do horrible things because they're scared and want to keep their paycheck. Things are going to get worse as things get tough. And as more and more pressure is put on the public, and as the government snatches more people's children, and as the government, engages in more crime, you're going to have more Americans. They're not going to be able to get all the guns, are going to fight back, and it's going to escalate things militarily. You're going to have incredible carnage with the police and military getting wiped out. They're going to wipe out a lot of citizens, and the bankers are going to sit offshore laughing, like they always do. And it's just an absolute nightmare, but it happens everywhere else, and now it's happening here. And we just have a complete whorehouse Congress, a complete whorehouse government. Obviously, some of them are good. Ron Paul's got 120-something now. In fact, guys, pull up that video. It's on Infowars.com. The headline is Ron Paul says, audit the Fed and then abolish it. That's the headline. Let's pull that up and play that for people. A little bit later in the show, play the audio of that. Because it's story under that, if you want to look at it. Let's go ahead and take another phone call here. Yeah, there it is. Audit the Fed and then abolish it. Let's go ahead and take another call here. Let's talk to Mark. No, Mark in Georgia hung up. JD. We just talked to JD. John in West Virginia. John, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. One of my friends turned me on to you about 5 months ago. I was like, okay, Obama's in. I had no clue to none. No, I had no idea to the depths of what these people do. And I've watched, all your videos. I've even, get on American Free Press, Liberty Times. And I try to educate my friends. I even, I love them to death, and I'm trying to tell them, listen, this is what's going on. And they're like, you have no proof of this. It's just on the Internet, it's not real. Because I said, do you think they're going to put it on Fox News, CNN? Here you go, by the way.
Well, actually, they do now. See, what happens is habits are things we do over and over again. They become comfortable. They become second nature. That's why 90% of the car wrecks in the nation happen within 15 miles of home commuting. Because you drive to work every day and drive it back. You walk in the 7-Eleven and get the Coca-Cola and the pack of cigarettes or whatever it is you're getting. You buy the 6-pack of beer after work. You almost get in zombie mode. Well, that psychology is the same way with government. All these decades, they would show Archie Bunker saying there was a banker conspiracy to get our guns, and the laugh track laughs, in 1973. So thousands of TV programs later, thousands of brainwashing newscasts and dramas and sitcoms with messages implanted, thousands of, news articles later saying there's no world government, there's no international banks, There's no plan to set up a global government. There's no plan to set up a carbon tax. They were taught that that didn't exist, and Rush Limbaugh got on the radio and said the CFR didn't even exist, on and on and on and on. And so now it doesn't matter if there's been more than 1,000 mainstream news articles that I've seen. I mean, hundreds a week for the last few months. It's in the multi-thousands saying, yes, here's how the world government's going to work. A private group of banks will own the planet. You will pay your carbon taxes to them, but it's good. It's for the earth. And these are the banking experts who know how to fix it when they engineered it. But they don't tell you that. And they just lay out, and yes, your neighbors are going to spy on you, but it's for your own good. And yes, there's going to be youth brigades. And yes, we're going to put you on secret lists and not let you own guns. That's actually in Fox News. And so all these years, folks were told that didn't exist. So now when it's announced, their habit, their instinct, their programming is they can't admit to themselves that this has really happened. And so they liked being lazy. They liked believing everything was fine. They liked believing you didn't have to be involved in society. They liked believing that life is all about just going to work and partying and having a good time and watching TV and that there's no adult responsibility. When the truth is that for the first tens of thousands of years of what we call humanity, or longer, it was a struggle every day just to survive, just to not have your children starve to death, to not freeze to death, to not have big cats or big bears, come in and to your village and grab dinner. And then cities started developing, agrarian villages and societies, and then tyranny was set up immediately. You got a few thousand humans together, there would become a hierarchical system and a system of control. And sometimes you had good kings and good chiefs, sometimes you had crazy ones. But always, the big war chief, who knew how to hunt, knew how to fish, and knew how to, lead the tribe, he'd get in control. And then he would say, my son is going to rule. That's how royalty began. And they would put on a fancy headdress to show everybody they were the chief. And that's what kings are today. I mean, old, wicked witches wearing crowns with diamonds and rubies and crystals, literal monkey hats to say to everybody, I have the power. I have the control. I have everything. That's what it is. And of course, and sir, I appreciate your call. You still there? Okay, he's gone. We'll let him go. That's a really great, question and point you brought up. So this is how society operates. Is that you can go back 10, 20, 30,000 years into antiquity, into human development and tribal societies, and the war chief. You might have a guy leading a band of 20, 30 people who are all family relations who are related to each other. And he leads them to better hunting grounds. He leads them, into a new territory, and they find a smaller band of people, and they don't kill them. They end up merging. They end up getting, intermarried. And so now the band is a couple hundred people. And then they merge with a few more bands of, nomadic travelers. And they merge with a nomadic band that knows how to plant crops. And so they settle by a river. And 20, 30 years later, there's 1,000 of them. And then you fast forward 200 years, there is 10,000 people living on the river's bank or living on the seashore. And the great-great-great-great-grandson of that original chief is completely spoiled rotten. He has a witch doctor that tells him he's God. He doesn't like the responsibility of having to figure out how to feed these 10,000 people, so he already has a disdain for the lower classes. He wears a fancy feathered headdress. Everybody bows down to him. That's Queen Elizabeth II. That's all she is a modern incarnation of that. And so, of course, the people are going to rebel out of the 10,000 folks living in that little city on the river. And so they develop an inner group of enforcers who are the cousins and the brothers and the neighbors and the friends and the and Krolgar's wife's brother, the good old boy club. And they wear police uniforms. They wear headdresses, and they wear sashes, or they wear loincloths that are a certain color. Nobody else is allowed to wear those because that's the color of the guard. If you go back to Rome, it was blue. That's why police wear blue. The Praetorian wore blue. And they, have fancy gold medallions. Everybody bows down, and they take more grain for themselves. They take more wine for themselves.